Sometimes mercy arrives in the form of a stranger who asks nothing but your name. The storm had teeth. Kira felt them bite through her torn cloak, through skin already numb from 3 days of walking. The mountains didn't care that she'd been cast out. The wind didn't pause for explanations. Snow fell like judgment, white and absolute, erasing her footprints as quickly as she made them. She had stopped shivering an hour ago. That, she knew, was dangerous. The rejection still burned in her chest, hotter than any fever. "You bring nothing to this pack," her alpha had said, his voice flat, mechanical. No strength, no gift, no purpose. Her own sister had turned away. Her mother had wept, but hadn't argued. Omega, weak, worthless. The words followed her into the wilderness like wolves. She stumbled over a root hidden beneath snow and fell hard. Her palm split open against frozen ground. Blood bloomed dark against white, and for a moment she simply stared at it. How easy it would be to stay down, to let the cold take her, to become another cautionary tale whispered around winter fires. But something in her, stubborn, feral, unexplainable, refused. She pushed herself up, one foot, then another. The forest thickened around her, pines laden with snow that muffled even the wind. Darkness pressed close. She had no destination, only direction, away. Then she saw it, light, faint and golden, flickering between trees like a promise. Her legs moved before her mind caught up. She crashed through underbrush, gasping, falling, rising again. The light grew stronger. A cabin materialized from the storm, small, sturdy, smoke rising from its chimney in defiance of the blizzard. She reached the door and pounded on it with frozen fists. Silence. She pounded again, harder, desperation clawing up her throat. "Please," she whispered, though she didn't expect anyone to hear. The door opened. A man stood in the threshold, backlit by firelight. Tall, broad-shouldered. His face was shadowed, but his eyes caught the light, pale gray, almost silver, like winter itself had taken form and learned to see. He looked at her, not through her. At her. "Please," she said again, swaying. "Just one night. I'll leave at dawn. I won't—" He stepped aside without a word. She stumbled past him into warmth so sudden it felt violent. Her knees buckled. Strong hands caught her before she hit the floor, and she was dimly aware of being guided to a chair near the fire, of a blanket being wrapped around her shoulders, of the door closing against the storm. "You're bleeding," he said. His voice was low, rough, like gravel beneath water. She looked down. Blood from her palms had soaked through the blanket. "I'm sorry. I'll—" "Stay still." He knelt before her, and she saw him clearly for the first time. He was perhaps 30, with dark hair that fell across his forehead and a face carved from contradictions. Strong jaw, but gentle mouth. Hard eyes, but careful hands. A scar ran from his left temple to his cheekbone, pale and old. He cleaned her wounds with water warmed over the fire, his touch precise and impersonal. She watched him work, too exhausted to be embarrassed, too cold to feel shame. "What's your name?" he asked without looking up. "Kira. I'm Theron. Not Alpha, not King. Just a name, offered like an equal." He wrapped her hands in clean cloth and sat back on his heels. "You'll stay until the storm passes. There's soup in the pot, bread on the table. The bed is through that door. I'll sleep out here. I can't take your—" "You can." His eyes met hers, and something in them made her stop, something ancient and tired and achingly lonely. "Rest, Kira." She wanted to argue, to explain that she wasn't weak, that she didn't need charity, that she'd been exiled but not broken. But the words tangled on her tongue, and the fire was so warm, and her body was so heavy. She nodded. He stood and moved to the window, his back to her, silhouette dark against the storm outside. She watched him for a moment, the set of his shoulders, the tension in his spine, the way he held himself like a man who'd forgotten how to rest. "Thank you," she whispered. He didn't turn. "Sleep." Outside, the wind howled. Inside, the fire crackled. And somewhere between exhaustion and dreams, Kira felt it, a pull, faint but undeniable, like a thread connecting her heart to something she couldn't name. She closed her eyes. The stranger who'd given her shelter stood guard by the window, watching shadows move through the blizzard, his jaw tight with the weight of secrets he hadn't yet spoken. Neither of them slept. Morning came pale and merciless. Kira woke to silence, the kind that follows storms, thick and expectant. Every muscle in her body screamed. Her hands throbbed beneath their bandages. But she was alive and warm, and that felt like rebellion. She sat up slowly. The bed was simple but clean, the blanket heavy wool that smelled faintly of cedar. Through the door, she could hear movement, the scrape of a chair, the clink of metal on metal. She stood, testing her legs, and walked into the main room. Theron stood at the stove, his back to her, stirring something in a pot. He'd changed clothes, black shirt, worn but well-made, sleeves rolled to his elbows. She noticed his forearms, corded with muscle and marked with scars that looked like they had stories. "You should still be in bed," he said without turning. "How did you—" "Your breathing changed." He glanced over his shoulder. "Sit." It wasn't a command exactly, more like a fact he expected the universe to arrange itself around. She sat. He ladled soup into a bowl and set it before her, along with thick slices of bread and a cup of something that smelled like pine and honey. Tea, maybe. Or medicine. "Eat," he said, taking the chair across from her. She ate. The soup was rich and savory, warming her from the inside out. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until the first bite. Pride told her to eat slowly, but survival told her to finish the bowl. Survival won. He watched her with those pale gray eyes, expression unreadable. "The storm's passed," he said finally. "You're free to go when you're ready." Something in his tone suggested he didn't expect her to stay. Something in her chest tightened at the thought of leaving. "Where will you go?" he asked. She set down her spoon. "I don't know. No family? No pack? I was exiled." The word hung between them like smoke. She waited for him to flinch, to judge, to ask what she'd done to deserve it. But he only nodded, as if exile were the most ordinary thing in the world. "Why?" she asked, surprising herself. "Why did you help me?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Because I know what it's like to be cast out." She studied him, the careful way he held himself, the shadows in his eyes, the scar on his face that looked like it had been earned in violence. "You were exiled too." Something like that. He stood and moved to the window. Outside, the world was blindingly white, snow piled high against trees that bent under its weight. Beautiful and hostile in equal measure. "There's a village 2 days south," he said. "They take in wanderers sometimes. I can give you supplies. A map. You want me to leave. I want you to survive." He turned to face her. "This place isn't safe." "Safe from what?" His jaw tightened. "From me." The words should have frightened her. Instead, they sparked something fierce and foolish in her chest. "You gave me shelter. You fed me. You haven't hurt me." "Not yet. Then why would you start now?" He crossed the room in 3 strides, stopping just close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Up close, she could see the exhaustion carved into his face, the tension thrumming beneath his skin. He looked like a man barely holding himself together. "Because," he said quietly, "I'm not what I seem. And you don't know what you're asking by staying." She should have been afraid. Every instinct should have screamed at her to run. But instead, she felt something else, recognition, as if some part of her had been waiting for this moment, for this man, for this impossible pull between them. "What are you?" she whispered. His eyes flashed silver, just for a heartbeat. "Wolf." But not just wolf. Something older. something that made the air around him hum with barely contained power. A mistake, he said. A king without a kingdom. A wolf without a pack. He stepped back, breaking the spell. And you're an Omega who deserves better than to be caught in my ruin. King! The word crashed through her like thunder. She stared at him, really looked at him, and saw it in the way he carried himself, the authority that clung to him even in exile, the weight of responsibility that bent his shoulders. You're an alpha king, she breathed. Was. His voice turned bitter. I failed my people, lost everything. Now I hide in these mountains and pretend I'm someone else. Why? Because it's better than facing what I've done. She stood slowly, her bandaged hands trembling. And yet you saved me. A stranger. An exiled Omega who has nothing to offer you. That's different. How? He looked at her like she was a riddle he couldn't solve. Because you were dying. And I'm not so far gone that I can watch that happen and do nothing. The fire crackled. Outside, an icicle fell from the roof with a sharp crack, and between them, the air grew thick with something neither could name. One more night, she said. Let me stay one more night. Then I'll leave if that's what you want. It's not about what I want. Then what is it about? He turned away, shoulders rigid. It's about keeping you alive. She moved closer, driven by an instinct she didn't understand. Maybe I'm safer here than out there. Maybe fate brought me to your door for a reason. Fate, he said, voice hollow, is a cruel architect. Or a merciful one. He looked at her then, really looked, and she saw something flicker in his eyes. Hope, maybe, or the memory of it. You don't know what you're saying. Then tell me. Help me understand. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, so quietly, she almost missed it. Stay tonight. We'll talk when darkness falls. It wasn't permission. It wasn't safety. But it was a beginning. And now, I invite you to leave a trace of your presence in the comments. Tell us where in the world you're watching from, and the exact hour you hear this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel, and at what moments of the night they find you. Darkness came with the scent of pine smoke and secrets. Kira spent the day watching Theron move through the cabin with quiet efficiency, chopping wood, mending a torn shirt, checking the perimeter of the clearing with the vigilance of a soldier who'd never stopped fighting. He didn't speak unless necessary. She didn't push, but she felt it, the pull, like a compass needle drawn north, like gravity, like recognition carved into her bones. By the time night fell, the tension between them had become a living thing. He built up the fire until it roared, then sat across from her with a bottle of something amber and strong. He poured 2 cups, slid one toward her, and downed his own in a single swallow. You wanted to understand, he said. So I'll tell you. She wrapped her hands around the cup, waiting. I was crowned at 20, he began, voice flat, distant. Youngest Alpha King in 5 generations. My father died in battle, and the crown fell to me whether I was ready or not. I had advisors, generals, a mate chosen by the council. He poured himself another drink. Her name was Ilara, beautiful, political, perfect. He stared into the fire. I tried to love her. I thought duty and love were the same thing, that if I was a good king, a good mate, everything else would follow. What happened? Kira asked softly. War. Our borders were attacked by a rival pack. I led the defense. We won, but barely. And when I came home... His jaw clenched. Ilara was dead, assassinated by someone inside our own court, someone I'd trusted. Kira's breath caught. I tore the kingdom apart looking for the traitor. Accused innocents, executed suspects, became exactly what my enemies wanted, a tyrant consumed by rage. He finally looked at her. I destroyed everything my father built. My people turned against me. My own council demanded I step down. So I left, gave them the mercy I never showed anyone else. You exiled yourself. I didn't deserve the crown. They were right to want me gone. She set down her cup. And now you live here, alone, punishing yourself. It's not punishment. It's consequence. It's cowardice. His eyes flashed silver. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. She leaned forward, voice steady. You made mistakes. You lost control. You hurt people. And instead of trying to make it right, you ran. You hide in these mountains and pretend your suffering is atonement. But it's not. It's just easier than facing what you've done. He stood abruptly, the chair scraping loud against wood. You think you know me? You've been here one day. I know enough. She stood too, meeting his glare. I know you saved me when you could have let me die. I know you fed me when you could have turned me away. I know you carry guilt like armor, but underneath it, you're still the king who tried to protect his people. I failed them. So did I. Her voice cracked. My pack rejected me because I'm weak. Because I have no gift, no strength, no purpose. I'm the Omega nobody wanted. And you know what? Maybe they were right. Maybe I am worthless. Don't say that. Why not? It's what you believe about yourself. The words hung between them, sharp and true. He stared at her, chest heaving, and she saw it, the fracture in his armor, the wound he'd been nursing alone for so long. You're not worthless, he said, voice rough. You survived 3 days in a blizzard. You walked into a stranger's cabin and trusted him not to hurt you. You looked at me, at what I am, and didn't flinch. That's not weakness. Then neither is what you did. Grief isn't weakness. Rage isn't weakness. They're just... She searched for the word. Human. I'm not human. Neither am I. But we're both here. Both broken. Both trying to figure out if there's anything left worth saving. He moved closer, and she could feel the heat radiating off him, the barely contained power that made the air hum. You should leave tomorrow, before what? Before I do something we'll both regret. Like what? He reached out slowly, as if moving through water, and cupped her face in one large hand. His palm was warm, calloused, gentle in a way that made her throat tight. Like this, he whispered. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperation and hunger and years of loneliness compressed into a single moment. She gasped against his mouth, and he pulled her closer, one arm wrapping around her waist like he was afraid she'd disappear. She should have pushed him away, should have remembered that he was dangerous, that she was nothing, that this was impossible. Instead, she kissed him back, her bandaged hands fisted in his shirt, his fingers tangled in her hair. The fire roared, and somewhere in the back of her mind, she felt it again, that pull, stronger now, like a thread binding her soul to his. Mate. The word bloomed in her consciousness, undeniable and terrifying. He jerked back, eyes wide and wild. No, this can't... You feel it too, she breathed. It doesn't matter. It's the only thing that matters. He released her and staggered back, running a hand through his hair. You don't understand. I can't have a mate. I can't have anything. I'm fated. She moved toward him. The goddess chose this, chose us. The goddess, he said bitterly, has a cruel sense of humor, or a perfect one. He looked at her like she was a miracle and a curse. If you stay, everything changes. My enemies will find me eventually. And when they do, they'll use you against me. They'll hurt you to hurt me. Is that what you want? I want, she said carefully, to stop running. I want to stop being afraid. And maybe, just maybe, I want to help you stop punishing yourself for being mortal. I'm not mortal. You're close enough. The fire crackled. Outside, a wolf howled, distant, lonely, answered by nothing. Theron closed his eyes. Stay, he said finally, the word barely audible. Stay, and I'll try to be worthy of what the goddess has given me, even if it kills us both." She crossed the space between them and took his hand. "Then we'll die together, but we'll live first." He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met, or the most foolish." "Can't I be both?" For the first time since she'd met him, he smiled, small, sad, real. "Yes," he said, "I think you can." They stood like that, wrapped in firelight and fate, while the night pressed close and the future waited, hungry and uncertain, just beyond the door. The gift revealed itself 3 days later, in blood and moonlight. Kira had settled into a rhythm, tending the fire, preparing meals, watching Theron patrol the perimeter with the restless energy of a caged wolf. They didn't kiss again, didn't touch beyond the accidental brush of hands. But the air between them hummed with potential, with words unspoken and hunger unnamed. She was learning him, the way he flinched when she laughed, as if joy were something dangerous. The way he watched her when he thought she wasn't looking, expression soft with wonder and grief. The way he woke screaming some nights, then sat by the fire until dawn, refusing comfort. On the 4th night, the dreams found her too. She saw a throne room carved from ice and obsidian, a woman with silver hair and vacant eyes, blood pooling beneath a dais, and through it all, a voice, ancient, feminine, resonant. "You are more than they believed, more than you believed. The path is written in scars and starlight. Follow it home." She woke, gasping. Theron was at her side instantly, hands on her shoulders, eyes sharp with concern. "What happened?" "I saw—" She struggled for words. "I saw your kingdom, the woman who died, and someone spoke to me. A voice like, 'The goddess.'" She nodded, trembling. He sat back slowly, face pale. "What did she say?" Kira told him everything. The vision, the voice, the promise of something more. When she finished, he was silent for a long time. Then, "You have a gift. I don't. My pack tested me. I'm just— Your pack was wrong." He stood and paced, agitated. "What you described, that's the sight. The ability to see truth beneath lies, past beneath present. It's rare, dangerous, and if you truly have it— If I do? Then you're not just my mate." He turned to face her. "You're the key to everything I've lost." She stood, legs unsteady. "I don't understand." "The traitor who killed Alara. I never found them, never saw their face, but with your gift—" Hope cracked his voice. "You could see what happened, could show me the truth. And then what? You go back? Reclaim your throne? Then I make it right, give my people justice, give myself—" He stopped. "Peace, maybe." She moved closer. "You want to use me?" "No. God, no." He gripped her arms gently. "I want you to choose. If you have this gift, it's yours, not mine to command. But if you're willing, if you want to help, I want to." The words surprised her, but they felt true. Not just for you, for me. To prove I'm not worthless. To prove they were wrong. "They were wrong," he said fiercely, "about everything." That night they tried. He built up the fire and gave her something to hold, a medallion carved with lunar symbols, cold and heavy in her palm. "This was my father's," he said. "It was with me the night Alara died. Focus on it. Let the sight come." She closed her eyes and breathed. At first, nothing. Then, slowly, images began to surface, fractured, visceral. A woman with kind eyes and careful hands, political marriages and duty-bound smiles, a kingdom thriving. And then, darkness, a hooded figure moving through corridors, the flash of a blade, blood, so much blood, and beneath it all, a presence, cold, patient, familiar. Kira gasped and dropped the medallion. Theron caught her before she fell. What did you see? I saw her die. Tears streamed down her face. I saw the assassin, but I couldn't see their face. Just something familiar, someone you trusted. Who? I don't know. The vision ended. He held her while she trembled, his heartbeat steady against her ear. It's enough. More than I've had in years. We'll try again. Learn to control it. Together. She pulled back to look at him. You really think I can do this? I know you can. He brushed hair from her face. You're stronger than you believe, Kira. Stronger than they ever let you be. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that she was more than the rejection that defined her. But doubt was a familiar weight. What if I fail? She whispered. Then we fail together. He pressed his forehead to hers. But I don't think you will. I think you're exactly what the goddess intended. A pathfinder, someone who sees truth when everyone else sees shadows. Pathfinder, she repeated. The word felt like a key turning in a lock. In the old stories, he said quietly, pathfinders were omegas with the sight. They guided lost souls home, showed kings the way forward, were revered, not rejected. My pack never told me those stories, because they didn't want you to know what you were. She looked up at him, this broken king who saw her when no one else had, and felt something shift. Not just attraction, not just fate, but purpose, direction, hope. Teach me, she said. Teach me to use this gift, and I'll help you find your way home. He smiled, and for the first time it reached his eyes. Then we'll walk this path together, wherever it leads. Outside, the moon rose full and silver, casting light through the window like a benediction. And somewhere in the distance, wolves sang, not of loneliness, but of something ancient stirring awake. The training began at dawn and ended in blood. Theron was patient, but unrelenting. He gave her objects tied to his past, a dagger, a royal seal, scraps of fabric from his throne room, and pushed her to sea. Each vision left her drained, shaking, sometimes bleeding from the nose as the sight tore through her unprepared mind. But she learned. She saw his father, strong and just, falling in battle. His coronation, performed with hands that trembled. The first time he met Alara, and the careful mask of affection they both wore. She saw his mistakes, the interrogations that went too far, the executions ordered in rage the moment his counsel turned against him. And through it all, she saw the shadow, the hooded figure who haunted his kingdom's halls, the assassin who walked freely while Theron burned the innocent. They're still there, she gasped after a particularly brutal vision. Whoever killed her, they're still in your kingdom. Theron's expression darkened. Then they've been ruling in my absence, using my exile to seize power. We have to go back. Not yet. You're not ready. I'm ready enough. You're bleeding. He wiped her nose with gentle fingers. You push too hard, you'll burn yourself out. The sight is a gift, but it has limits. She caught his wrist. So does your patience. How long are you willing to hide while your people suffer? The question hit like a blade. He pulled away and moved to the window, staring out at snow-covered mountains that had become his prison. I don't know if they'll accept me back, he said finally. I don't know if I deserve to return. You deserve a chance to make it right. And if I fail again, then we fail together. You keep saying that. Do you mean it? He turned, and the weight in his eyes made her chest ache. I mean it, but I won't risk you for my redemption. It's not just yours anymore. She stood, crossing to him. This is my fight too. My chance to prove I'm more than what they said I was. Don't take that from me. He cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. You're already more. You've always been more. Then let me stand beside you. As your mate, as your pathfinder, as... She faltered. as someone who believes you can be the king you were meant to be. Something in him cracked. He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. I don't deserve you. You don't get to decide that. The goddess already did. He laughed, the sound broken but real. She chose poorly. She chose perfectly. They stood like that, wrapped in each other while daylight faded and shadows crept across the floor. And Kira felt it, the bond between them strengthening, solidifying into something unbreakable. But peace never lasted. The attack came at midnight. Kira woke to the sound of splintering wood and Theron's roar. She stumbled from bed as figures poured through the shattered door. 5 wolves, massive and feral, eyes burning with predatory intelligence. Hunters. Theron shifted mid-leap, his wolf form silver and massive, and met them head-on. Teeth flashed, blood sprayed. Kira pressed herself against the wall, unarmed and useless, as chaos consumed the cabin. One of the wolves broke away from the pack and stalked toward her. Its lips pulled back in a snarl. Its eyes were human intelligent and full of malice. She recognized the hunting technique: separate, isolate, kill. She had no weapon, no training, no strength, but she had the sight. As the wolf lunged, she grabbed its face with both hands and pulled. The vision slammed into her like a physical blow. She saw everything: this wolf's true form, a mercenary hired by someone in Theron's old kingdom. Orders to kill the exiled king. Payment promised in gold and land. And behind it all, the shadow. The hooded figure whose face she still couldn't see. But she felt their presence. Cold, calculating, close. The wolf yelped and jerked back, disoriented by what she'd done. Theron seized the opening and tore its throat out in one vicious movement. The remaining attackers fled. Silence crashed down, broken only by ragged breathing and the drip of blood on wood. Theron shifted back to human form, naked and streaked with crimson, and pulled Kira into his arms. "Are you hurt?" he demanded. "No, She trembled violently. "I saw them. They were sent by someone in your kingdom, someone who wants you dead." "The traitor." "Yes, and they know you're here. They'll send more." He pulled back, eyes blazing. "Then we leave tonight, head south to neutral territory, gather allies." "Or we go north," she said, "back to your kingdom, face this head-on." "That's suicide." "It's inevitable. They won't stop hunting you, and I won't spend my life running." She gripped his arms. "Use me. Use my gift. Let me help you find the truth and take back what's yours. If I take you there, I'm putting you in danger. I've been in danger since they cast me out. At least this danger has purpose. Subscribe if you believe mercy can crown even the fallen." He searched her face, and she saw the moment he decided, the moment he stopped running and started fighting. "Then we go home," he said. "Together, and we end this." She kissed him, fierce and claiming and desperate. Together. Outside, the moon watched. The mountains held their breath. And somewhere to the north, a throne sat empty, waiting for the king who'd learned that redemption isn't given. It's taken. With blood and love and impossible courage. They traveled north through winter's grip, moving by night, hiding by day. Theron taught her to fight, not with claws or strength, but with cunning. How to read terrain, how to move silently, how to survive on almost nothing. She taught him patience, how to wait for visions instead of forcing them, how to trust the goddess's timing even when it felt cruel. They were learning each other, not just as mates, but as partners. On the 5th night, they reached the border of his former kingdom. Kira stood at the forest's edge, staring at lights that glittered in the valley below. A city, massive, beautiful, built around a castle that rose like a sword thrust toward the sky. "That's home," Theron said quietly. Or it was. It still is. She took his hand. "Are you ready?" "No. but I've never been ready for anything that mattered. They descended under cover of darkness, avoiding patrols with the instincts of exiles. Theron led her through back alleys and forgotten tunnels, paths only a king would know. They emerged in the lower city, where poverty and desperation hung thick as smoke. "This wasn't here before," he whispered, staring at makeshift shelters and hollow-eyed children. "This is new." "This is what your absence created," Kira said gently. "This is what the traitor built." His jaw tightened. "Then I'll tear it down." They moved through shadows, gathering information. The city was under martial law. The council ruled through fear, and the new advisor, a man named Corvus, had consolidated power with brutal efficiency. Kira felt the name like a blade. "Corvus, that's who we're looking for." "You've seen him?" "Not clearly, but he's connected to everything. The assassination, the hunters, the suffering here." "Then we'll start with him." They found shelter in an abandoned chapel on the city's outskirts. The altar was cracked, the pews rotted, but the roof held and the walls provided cover. Theron built a small fire while Kira tried to rest, but sleep wouldn't come. She sat up, hugging her knees, and watched him tend the flames. His profile was sharp in the firelight, all hard angles and contained violence. But his hands were gentle when he touched her. His voice was soft when he spoke her name. "What if we fail?" she asked. He looked at her. "Then we fail having tried. That's more than I've done in years. But your people will survive, whether I'm there or not. They always have." He moved to sit beside her. "But you asked me once if I was ready to make things right. The answer is yes, not because I want my crown back, but because I want to be worthy of you." Her throat tightened. "I'm just an Omega. You're my Omega, my mate, my pathfinder." He took her hand. "And you're the only reason I have the courage to face what I've done." She leaned into him, and he wrapped his arms around her. They sat like that, bound by firelight and fate, while the city slept and the future waited. "Tomorrow," he said, "we go to the castle, we find Corvus, and we end this. Together? Always." She kissed him then, slow and deliberate, pouring everything she couldn't say into the press of lips and the tangle of breath. He responded with equal intensity, one hand fisting in her hair, the other pulling her closer until there was no space left between them. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "When this is over," he said roughly, "I'm going to mate you properly. In front of the goddess and everyone, make you my queen. I'm a rejected Omega with a gift nobody wanted. I can't be queen. You're the woman who saved me when I'd given up on saving myself. You're exactly what a queen should be." She wanted to argue, wanted to list all the reasons why it was impossible. But looking at him, at the certainty in his eyes, she let herself believe. Just for a moment, just long enough to hope. "Then let's finish this," she whispered, "so we can start everything else." He kissed her forehead. "Rest. Tomorrow we take back what was stolen." She closed her eyes, tucked against his side, and dreamed of thrones and redemption. And in those dreams, the goddess whispered, "You are the key. You are the cure. You are exactly where you need to be." When dawn broke, they would walk into fire. But tonight, they had each other, and that was enough. The castle loomed like a cathedral built for war. Kira and Theron approached through the servants' entrance, moving with the crowd of workers who arrived at dawn. Theron had cut his hair short and dirtied his face. She wore a maid's uniform, scavenged from a supply line. They looked like nothing, no one. That was the point. Inside, the castle was different from Kira's visions, colder, darker. The tapestries depicting past kings had been taken down. Guards stood at every corner, watching with predator eyes. Fear lived in the walls. "This way," Theron murmured, guiding her through corridors he'd memorized as a child. They reached the throne room just as court convened. Kira pressed herself against a column, peering around it to see the man who'd stolen everything. Corvus sat on the throne. He was younger than she'd expected, perhaps 40, with silver threading through dark hair. Handsome, charismatic, he wore authority like a well-fitted cloak, and when he spoke, the council hung on his words. "Your Majesty," someone said, and Kira's blood went cold. Majesty. He'd crowned himself. Beside her, Theron's hands clenched into fists. She could feel rage radiating off him in waves. She touched his arm gently, grounding him. "Not yet," she whispered. "We need proof." He nodded stiffly. They watched as Corvus dispensed justice, harsh sentences for minor crimes, confiscation of property, public humiliations designed to break spirits. The council said nothing. The guards enforced everything. And through it all, Corvus smiled. When court adjourned, they followed him. He moved through the castle with casual confidence, stopping to chat with guards, to inspect kitchens, to ensure everything ran according to his design. He was thorough, meticulous, and completely secure in his power. They cornered him in the library. Theron stepped from the shadows, and Corvus froze. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Corvus's face split into a smile, sharp and pleased. "Theron, I'd heard rumors you were alive, but I didn't dare hope." "Hope?" Theron's voice was ice. "You sent hunters to kill me. I sent hunters to bring you home. If they were overzealous..." He shrugged. "Well, one can't control everything. You killed Ilara." "No." Corvus moved to a chair and sat, completely at ease. "You killed Ilara. Your paranoia, your rage, your inability to trust anyone. You tore this kingdom apart looking for ghosts, and when you left, I simply swept up the pieces. Liar. Prove it." Corvus leaned back. "Oh, wait, you can't, because you have no evidence, no witnesses, just guilt and grief and a throne you abandoned." Kira stepped forward. "I can prove it." Corvus's gaze slid to her, assessing. "And who are you?" "Someone who sees." She pulled the sight around her like armor and reached out. The vision hit like a tidal wave. She saw Corvus 20 years younger, serving Theron's father. Ambition burning in his chest, careful maneuvering, political alliances. And when Theron was crowned, young, uncertain, grieving, Corvus saw opportunity. She saw him plant seeds of doubt, whisper suggestions, turn Theron's grief into paranoia. And then, the assassination. Not Corvus's hand on the blade, but his words in the killer's ear, his gold in their pocket, his promise of power if they succeeded. He'd used Theron's rage to destroy the kingdom from within, then stepped in as savior. Kira gasped and pulled back, the truth burning in her mind. "You orchestrated everything," she breathed. "You turned him into a tyrant so you could be the hero. You killed an innocent woman and let him destroy himself with guilt." Corvus stood slowly. "Clever girl, but it doesn't matter. No one will believe an exiled Omega with delusions. They'll believe their king. Their king abandoned them. I saved them." He moved toward the door. "Guards." Theron's hand shot out and grabbed Corvus's throat, slamming him against the wall. "You took everything from me. My mate, my crown, my soul." Corvus smiled even as he choked. "And I'd do it again, because you were weak, and weakness doesn't deserve power." "Then let me show you strength." The door burst open. Guards poured in, 20, 30, too many to fight. But Kira stepped forward, and her voice rang with authority she didn't know she possessed. "Stop." They hesitated. She pulled the sight and projected it outward. Not a vision, but a truth. She showed them everything she'd seen. Corvus's betrayal, Ilara's murder, the systematic destruction of a kingdom by a man who wanted power more than justice. She showed them their true king. The guards lowered their weapons. one by one. They knelt. Corvus's face went white. No, no, you can't. I already have. Kira looked at Theron. Your people are waiting. Take back your throne. Theron released Corvus, who crumpled to the floor and turned to face the guards. For a moment, he simply stood there, broken king before broken kingdom. Then he spoke. I failed you. I let grief make me cruel. I destroyed what I was supposed to protect. His voice carried through the library, through the halls, through the castle itself. I don't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I ask for a chance to make it right. To be the king my father raised me to be. To serve you, not rule you. Silence, heavy, terrible. Then one guard stood. You saved my daughter once, before everything went wrong. You showed mercy when others wanted execution. I remember that king. Another stood. You fought beside us in battle, bled with us. That's the king I'll follow. More rose, not all, but enough, and in that moment, redemption became possible. Theron looked at Kira, and she saw everything in his eyes, gratitude, love, hope. Take him to the dungeons, Theron said, indicating Corvus. He'll face trial, proper trial, with evidence and witnesses and justice. As guards dragged Corvus away, the usurper laughed. This isn't over. You're still the tyrant who killed innocents. You're still the failure. Yes, Theron said, but I'm a failure who's learned from his mistakes. Can you say the same? The laughter died, and as Corvus disappeared into darkness, Kira took Theron's hand. Now what? Now, he said, we rebuild, together. The castle began to wake. Word spread. The true king had returned, and in the library, surrounded by books and broken promises, Kira and Theron stood side by side, two exiles who'd found their way home, not through strength, through truth. The trial lasted 3 days. Corvus was given every advantage, counsel, witnesses, time to prepare. Theron refused to let vengeance masquerade as justice. Not again. Kira testified, using her sight to show the council exactly what had happened. They watched in horror as her visions played out, the manipulation, the murder, the systematic destruction of their kingdom. Some wept, others demanded immediate execution. Theron stayed silent through it all, face carved from stone. On the 3rd day, the council delivered their verdict, guilty on all counts. Sentence: exile to the northern wastes, stripped of title, property, and name. You're letting him live? A council member protested. I'm letting him survive, Theron corrected. Whether he lives is between him and the wilderness. I won't become an executioner again. That's not justice, it's revenge. The council murmured, but accepted it. Corvus was led away, and as he passed Theron, he spat one final curse. You'll fail them again. It's in your nature. Maybe, Theron said, but I'll fail while trying. That's more than you ever did. After the trial, the real work began. Theron met with citizens, heard grievances, reversed unjust laws, reopened trade routes, returned confiscated property. He worked dawn to midnight, sleeping 3 hours if he was lucky, driving himself with the fervor of a man trying to atone. Kira watched him burn himself out and finally intervened. You're not sleeping, she said one night, finding him at his desk surrounded by reports. I can't. There's too much to fix. You can't fix it all in a week, or a month, or even a year. She moved behind him and placed her hands on his shoulders. You're one man. You need help. I have help. I have the council. I meant me. He turned to look at her. Exhaustion lined his face, but his eyes were clear. You've done more than enough. You gave me back my kingdom. I gave you the truth. The kingdom is choosing you every day. She knelt beside his chair. But you need to let them see you're human, that you make mistakes, that you need support, a partner. I have a partner. Then let me stand beside you, publicly, as your mate, as your queen. He pulled her into his lap, burying his face in her neck. I don't want to trap you. You could leave. Find a pack that values you. Live free. I'm already free, and I choose this. I choose you. Why? His voice broke. I'm still the king who failed, still the man who let rage consume him, still the man who saved me when no one else would, still the king who's rebuilding with mercy instead of wrath, still my mate. She pulled back to meet his eyes. You're not perfect, neither am I. But we're perfect for each other. He kissed her then, deep and claiming and desperate. I love you, he whispered against her mouth. I didn't think I could feel this again, but I love you. I love you too. Marry me, mate me, rule beside me, be everything I'm not. I'll be everything we are, together. He carried her to bed and loved her slowly, thoroughly, sealing their bond with touch and breath and whispered promises. And when the goddess's mark appeared on both their necks, silver and luminous, they knew. This was forever. The next morning, Theron addressed the kingdom. Standing on the castle balcony, Kira beside him, he spoke with the voice of a king who'd learned humility. I present to you my mate, my pathfinder, my queen. He took her hand. She is Kira, rejected by her pack, exiled into winter, saved by mercy. She saw me when I couldn't see myself. She led me home when I'd given up hope, and she will help me build the kingdom our people deserve. The crowd was silent. Then someone started clapping, then another, then hundreds, thousands, until applause thundered through the city like a storm. Kira looked at Theron, tears streaming down her face. They accept me. They love you, as I do. She turned to the crowd and raised their joined hands. I was told I had no purpose, no strength, no gift, but the goddess knew better. She gave me the sight. She gave me you. And together, we will serve you with everything we are. The crowd roared, and in that moment, Kira understood. Her rejection hadn't been the end. It had been the beginning, the path to her true self. The journey to her mate, the walk toward destiny. She'd been cast out to find what she was meant for. And what she was meant for was this: love, leadership, redemption, together. Spring came slowly to the northern kingdom, but it came. Ice melted into rivers. Snow gave way to green, and the city, scarred but standing, began to bloom. Kira walked through the lower district, surrounded by guards who'd become friends. She stopped to speak with shopkeepers, to hold babies, to hear complaints and offer solutions. The people no longer flinched when she approached. They smiled. They trusted. She was their queen, not because of blood or birthright, but because she'd chosen them, and they'd chosen her back. Theron met her at the market square, pulling her aside with a grin that made him look years younger. Come with me. I have something to show you. He led her to the castle gardens, where workers had been laboring for weeks, and there, in the center, stood a statue. It depicted two figures, a wolf and an omega, standing side by side, faces turned toward the moon. It's us, she breathed. It's what we represent. Strength and sight. Power and wisdom, the balance I forgot for so long. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. I wanted everyone to remember, not my failure, but what comes after, when we choose to rebuild. She leaned back against him, heart full. You've given them so much, hope, justice, a future. We've given them that, together. He turned her to face him. There's one more thing. He knelt. Her breath caught. I've already made you my queen, but I want to give you something more. He pulled out a ring, simple silver, inlaid with moonstone. I want to marry you, human custom and wolf tradition, public and private, forever and always. Will you? Yes. She pulled him up and kissed him. Yes, 1,000 times yes. The wedding took place under a full moon, in the castle courtyard, witnessed by thousands. Theron wore silver and black, Kira wore white and moonstone. And when they spoke their vows, promising loyalty, partnership, and love, the goddess herself seemed to smile. Later, in their chambers, wrapped in each other, and the silence of contentment, Theron whispered, "Do you ever regret it? Staying with me instead of starting over somewhere else?" "Never." She traced the scar on his face. "This was always where I was meant to be, with you, in this life." "Even with the danger, the responsibility?" "Especially because of it. I'm not the weak Omega they cast out anymore. I'm the Pathfinder who found her king, and together we're rewriting what's possible." He pulled her close. "I failed once. I might fail again. Then we'll fail together. Learn together. Rise together." She kissed him softly. That's what mates do. Outside, the city slept in peace for the first time in years. Inside, a king and his queen held each other and dreamed of the future. Not perfect, but possible. Weeks later, Kira stood in the throne room, addressing a young Omega who'd been brought to her by guards. "They say I'm worthless," the girl whispered, eyes downcast. "They say I have no gift." Kira knelt before her. "They said the same about me, but look at me now." She gestured to the throne room, to Theron, who watched with quiet pride. "I'm queen, not despite being Omega, but because of what being Omega taught me. Compassion, resilience, the ability to see what others miss." The girl looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. "What's your name?" Kira asked gently. "Mira." "Mira, listen to me carefully. Your pack was wrong. Not about you having a gift, you might not, but wrong about your worth. Your worth isn't determined by what you can do. It's determined by who you choose to be." She took the girl's hands. "Stay here. Train with me. Learn to use whatever gifts the goddess gave you. And if you have none, then you'll find purpose another way. Because purpose isn't assigned. It's discovered." Tears streamed down Mira's face. "You really mean that?" "I lived it. So yes, I mean it with everything I am." Theron approached and placed a hand on Kira's shoulder. "We're building something new here. A kingdom where value isn't measured in strength alone. Where Omegas are respected. Where everyone has a place." "Will you help us?" Kira asked. Mira nodded, unable to speak. As guards led her away to the servants' quarters, not as a servant, but as someone being given shelter and opportunity, Theron pulled Kira close. "You're changing everything," he murmured. "We're changing everything," she corrected. "That's the point." He kissed her temple. "Have I told you today that you're magnificent? Not in the last hour." "Then I'm remiss." He turned her to face him. "You're magnificent. You're everything I didn't know I needed. And I will spend every day of my life trying to be worthy of you." "You already are." "Then I'll spend every day being grateful instead." She smiled and rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Steady, strong, alive. They'd walked through fire, through betrayal and exile and bloodshed, through self-doubt and impossible choices, and they'd emerged not unscathed, but unbroken. Because mercy can crown even the fallen. Because love redeems what hatred destroys. Because two broken souls can build something whole. That evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in shades of amber and rose, Kira stood on the balcony overlooking the kingdom. Below, people moved through streets lit by lanterns. Children played. Couples walked hand in hand. Life, vibrant and resilient, thrived. Theron joined her, wrapping a cloak around her shoulders against the spring chill. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That I was cast out into a blizzard to die, and instead I found shelter. I found you. I found myself." She turned to look at him. "That rejection was the greatest gift my old pack ever gave me. because it brought me here. To a broken king in a broken kingdom. To the king who learned that breaking isn't the end. It's the beginning of becoming something stronger. She took his hand. We're proof of that, both of us. He lifted her hand to his lips. Then let's keep proving it, every day, for as long as the goddess allows. For as long as the moon rises, for as long as wolves howl, for as long as hearts beat. They stood together as darkness fell and stars emerged, two figures silhouetted against the twilight. A king and his queen, an alpha and his omega, two souls who'd found each other in the wilderness and chosen to build a kingdom on the foundation of second chances. Behind them, the throne room glowed with warmth and light. Before them, the future stretched vast and uncertain, but they would face it together. Always together. Because some bonds aren't forged in perfection. They're forged in survival, in choice. In the deliberate decision to keep choosing each other, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when the world says it's impossible. And in the end, that's what made them unbreakable. Not power, not destiny, but love freely given and fiercely protected. The moon rose full and silver, casting her blessing over the kingdom below. And in its light, Kira and Theron stood, no longer exiles, no longer broken, no longer alone, just king and queen, just mates, just two souls who'd walked through winter and found spring waiting on the other side. If your heart beat alongside ours, like, comment, and subscribe. Because every soul that joins our moon keeps the flame of redemption alive.